Richtofen was an experiment of Project MK Ultra, a human experimentation program designed and undertaken by the CIA to develop procedures that could be used during interrogations to weaken people and force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture. Although that was MK Ultra's main purpose, forcing people to give confessions, through the CIA's methods of brainwashing by implanting false memories into their test subjects, the project became useful for many other things, and it could be that Samantha Maxis was also a part of this. With the latest zombies map, Citadel de Mor, there are tons of radios in the game, loads that I still haven't gone through yet, even though the map's been out for, what, a few weeks now? 2 or 3 weeks? I've got through some of it, but I just haven't had the chance to fully delve into everything until now. And what we're about to get into is probably some of the craziest stuff, you could say conspiracy theories, we have ever had in COD Zombies. I've been covering this game since Black Ops 1. The earlier days of the storyline revolved a lot around real life projects and experiments, and also some fantasy as well, including the German wonder weapons, Die Glock, the Bell. But this conspiracy, if true, could end up being the most interesting yet. I will just say, like I just said, because I've only just got around to looking into it, I saw this post on Twitter which kind of blew up from the Gaming Revolution, where he spoke, I believe, a lot about this, from what I could gather from the tweet. I haven't watched the video, but I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of similarities and some differences as well, so that could be worth checking out. But this theory begins from a radio we find in Citadel de Mor from Gabriel Krafft, where he told us that he had applied for a new job in America that the CIA was calling MK Ultra. And Krafft, who was living in Berlin at the time, was going to move to America with his son Eddie to begin this new job.
The boy is having nightmares again. The terrible things. He wakes drenched in sweat, screaming that it's his turn. He does not remember in the morning. I am beginning to wonder if he is actually taking the pills or if he is just lying to me. Either way, the boy needs a fresh start. Something to help him forget the things that haunt him. Perhaps we both do. Weeks ago, I applied to a project in America. My background in the occult and my unique field experience make me a perfect candidate. I can't say too much even here, but the work is exciting. An excursion along the frontiers of science. The CIA are calling it MK Ultra. I haven't heard back yet, but I'm keeping my hopes high. This could be exactly what Eddie and I need. Perhaps in America we can find a way to end the nightmares. For both of us.
A little bit of context just in case you aren't caught up with the storyline. Eddie is Krafft's adoptive son. In the old Ether timeline, after the multiverse was destroyed and the Primus and Ultimus versions of Richtofen, Takeo, Nikolai, Dempsey all died, everything was banished to the Dark Ether besides from these 2 remaining children, Samantha and Eddie, who walked off into the light, into this new singular universe that we have now in the current Dark Ether timeline, which includes Cold War zombies, Modern Warfare 3 zombies, Vanguard zombies, and Black Ops 6 zombies, and any game going into the future. So these 2 children, Samantha and Eddie, at the end of Black Ops 4, walked into the light, into this new universe. And when they arrived here, anything of that prior timeline was wiped from their memories. They could remember nothing. Soon after arriving in this new universe together, when both of them were about 8 years old, they were placed into orphanages. Richtofen was sent to the New Horizon orphanage. We don't know which one Samantha was sent to, whether it be the same or a different one, but when Richtofen or Eddie arrived in the orphanage, the carers there quickly realised that he suffered with nightmares. Every other night, Eddie would wake up drenched in sweat from having nightmares of the old universe. He would dream of his time in Dr. Monty's house with Samantha, but because his memory was wiped, he couldn't remember anything from that old universe, what happened before he arrived here. He assumed these nightmares he was having was simply that, nightmares, when in reality, they were memories that he actually went through, that were lodged somewhere in the back of his mind, that he had perhaps repressed. Anyway, a couple of years later, when he was 10 years old, Krafft, after the death of his partner Sasha, honouring his memory of both of them wanting to have a child, he went to the New Horizon orphanage and adopted Eddie. He took him back to his home in Berlin, set him up in his bedroom, and it wasn't too long after that, he noticed these nightmares Eddie was still suffering from, where he would wake up in the middle of the night screaming that it's his turn. Another memory of something he'd gone through in the old timeline. But of course, Krafft knew nothing about this. He just assumed these were more than likely random nightmares that Eddie was having. Realizing that Eddie might need a fresh start, something to maybe help him forget the things that haunt him, Krafft, because of his background on the occult and his unique field experience, being the perfect candidate, applied for Project MKUltra in America, and he got the job. Him and Eddie then packed their bags, left Berlin, flew to America, and Krafft's work in 1953 began. MKUltra, which, if you don't know, was actually a real-life project undertaken by the CIA, it's not just made up for the game, used numerous methods to manipulate their subjects' mental states and brain functions, such as the covert administration of high doses of psychoactive drugs, especially LSD, and other chemicals without subjects' consent. Other methods that were used as a part of MKUltra's brainwashing and psychological torture, besides from chemical compounds, included electroshocks, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and physical abuse, and other forms of torture. The program, of course, engaged in illegal activities, including the use of American and Canadian citizens as unwitting test subjects. The project attempted to produce a perfect truth serum for interrogating suspected Soviet spies during the Cold War, and to explore other possibilities of mind control. Subproject 54 was the Navy's top secret perfect concussion program, which was supposed to use subaural frequency blasts to erase memory, but that program was never carried out. In areas under American control in the early 1950s in Europe and East Asia, mostly Japan, West Germany and the Philippines, the CIA created secret detention centers known as black sites so that the US could avoid criminal prosecution. The CIA captured people suspected of being enemy agents and other people it deemed expendable to undertake various types of torture and human experimentation on them. These prisoners were interrogated while being administered psychoactive drugs, electroshocked, and subjected to extremes of temperature, sensory isolation, and they like to develop a better understanding of how to destroy and control human minds. And the MKUltra project is a big part of the Black Ops series, whether it be in Black Ops 1, Black Ops Cold War, or Black Ops 6. The main plot, what it all goes back to in the campaigns of these games, is MKUltra, mind control and brainwashing. In Black Ops 6 we have the Cradle, in Black Ops 1 we had the Soviet version of MKUltra, and in Black Ops Cold War, the story with Bell is all about him being brainwashed, erasing his old memory and then implanting his brain with new ones.
You gotta admit, I'm surprised. I didn't think they'd recover so fast.
We tried everything. Normal forms of interrogation won't work.
Breaking a subject's will and erasing their mind is a difficult and painful process.
That's a small price to pay.
The CIA's mind control program has had a great deal of success with implanted memories.
You want me to tell them about my time in Vietnam?
Lastly, you'll need a command phrase to trigger the implanted memories.
We have a job to do.
You had to reach the Soviet bunker.
It appears the subject's programming is beginning to take hold.
We've got a job to do. We've known each other for years. Fought together, bled together, been through the hell of Vietnam together. We've got a job to do.
And now the training's complete.
So Richtofen's adoptive father, Krafft, moved to America with him to become a part of the MKUltra program. Krafft was one of the first scientists, I guess you could call him, or demonologist, whatever his specialty would be, but he was one of the first people to be employed there. And if you take a closer look at what Krafft says in this radio...
Either way, the boy needs a fresh start. Something to help him forget the things that haunt him. The CIA are calling it MKUltra. I haven't heard back yet, but I'm keeping my hopes high. This could be exactly what Eddie and I need. Perhaps in America we can find a way to end the nightmares. For both of us.
When talking about him getting this new job, he says, this could be exactly what Eddie and I need. Perhaps in America, we can find a way to end the nightmares. For both of us. What is one way that Krafft could easily end Eddie's nightmares, to end his suffering? And that would be to erase his memory, erase from his mind whatever's causing these nightmares, and then brainwash him with new ones. Even though it sounds sick, perhaps in Krafft's mind, this was the only way he could think to end Eddie's nightmares. He saw Eddie suffering every single night, waking up drenched in sweat, scared, and he could have seen MKUltra as a way to fix that by controlling his mind and brainwashing him. Krafft not only moved to America because he saw this job opportunity from the CIA as something good for him, but he also saw how he could use this to fix his son. And maybe when he got there and had learned some of the techniques that the CIA were using, in secret, or maybe not, he experimented on Eddie himself. Eddie became a guinea pig for the CIA's MKUltra program. They weren't trying to interrogate him, they weren't trying to extract information out of him, but they were attempting to create new memories to stop him from having these nightmares.
The bigger challenge was your memory.
You were a guinea pig for the CIA's MK Ultra program. They used me and Adler's missions in Vietnam to create new memories. Nothing brings people together like wartime. Instant family. Brothers in arms.
If this did happen, because this is still a theory, what exactly these memories would have been, we don't know. Would they have been memories that Krafft had? Perhaps happy ones that he only wanted Richtofen to know? Because there is a massive gap between Richtofen's childhood and the next time we see him when he's grown up as a full adult. He had a family, a wife and his son. There's going to be like a 20+ year time gap between Eddie as a child and Eddie as an adult that we just don't know what happened in those years. Apart from MK Ultra, there was clearly so much more that went on that we aren't aware of, so there's a lot of blanks that we just aren't able to fill in at the moment. But from the few radios we do have, we no longer hear of Richtofen having these nightmares anymore, besides from the one we saw him have in Liberty Falls about the death of his wife and son. That's understandable, but in regards to the ones he had as a child of him in Dr. Monty's house with Samantha playing with the toys, nothing of the sorts is mentioned to us, so it could be that the MK Ultra program was successful. Richtofen was one of their first successful test subjects. Krafft managed to brainwash him and fix his mind. But of course what comes along with that is all of the torture, physically and especially mentally. In order to conduct these brainwashing experiments, not only did they use drugs, but the CIA would electroshock people, hypnotize them, put them through sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and physical abuse, and other forms of torture. All of this could have been what Eddie would have had to go through to implant him with new memories. This may have been what Krafft put his own son through to attempt to stop his nightmares. But on the flip side, what if instead of fixing Richtofen, Krafft broke him even more, and he didn't erase that part of his brain that was causing those nightmares from the old timeline. Instead, he just opened it up even more, causing Richtofen to remember everything, because Richtofen's definitely up to something right now. He's searching for the Sentinel artifact. We believe this is because he wants to attempt to bring back his wife and son, but there's a lot more going on there that we don't know. If Richtofen was an MK Ultra experiment, could it have done the opposite and caused him to remember the old timeline, remember the Primus version of Richtofen and the Ultimus version of him? All of the corruption that was left behind could have mentally been brought back to him, causing this version of Richtofen, what was supposed to be an innocent version of him, to become corrupted like the rest. Does he now remember Nikolai, Takeo and Dempsey, Dr. Monty, the Shadow Man, and is him attempting to retrieve the Sentinel artifact not only a way for him to try to bring back his wife and son, but also bring back everything from that old multiverse? We don't know, but Richtofen could have been experimented on by his own father as a part of MK Ultra, initially as a good thing in quotation marks, trying to erase that part of his memory that was causing these nightmares, and it may have worked, but at the same time, could it have corrupted him? The only thing I will say is there is definitely one specific event that changed Richtofen. That's a fact, and that was the death of his wife and son. From what we were told by Krafft and Citadel Day Moore, it was at that point that Richtofen changed.
Grief is incomprehensibly powerful. The fire that took Richtofen's family turned him into a monster. After the fire, Richtofen was consumed by darkness. I could not help him.
So we can assume before the death of his family, which would have been when he was still an adult, Richtofen was fine, he was nice, he was a good person. If that's the case, maybe Krafft did actually fix him, but it was after the death of his wife and son where grief overcame him, and Richtofen then turned into a monster. From that point on, he was consumed by darkness. We know the two people that killed Richtofen's wife and son was Samantha and Weaver. That's clear, but what isn't is why? It doesn't make any sense, because Richtofen and Samantha were friends as children. They were best friends. They entered this new universe together. They then got split up into orphanages, and like I just mentioned, there is a big 20+ year time gap between them as children and Richtofen's family being killed that we aren't aware of. So many events must have gone down that we don't know, but one of those events is his childhood best friend Samantha indirectly killing his wife and son. And the only reason that happened is because she told Weaver to assassinate Richtofen. Weaver failed, and in order to cover his tracks, he burned down Richtofen's house, killing his wife and son. But the question should be, why did Samantha want Richtofen dead? What happened between those two? And well, this reminded me of the situation in the Black Ops 1 campaign, where Mason was brainwashed by Dragovich to kill Kennedy.
Mason, no! Step 8, Reznov! Freedom! For you, Mason! Not for me!
Viktor Reznov's been dead for 5 years. He died at Vorkuta during the escape. All the years you thought he was with you, that was just in your mind.
I trusted him.
That's why it worked. It was their attempt at MK Ultra. Dragovich programmed you to kill Kennedy, but Reznov sabotaged you. He wanted revenge for all the Dragovich done to him. Dragovich, Kurchenko, Steiner, 3 new victims. There are gaps in your memory. Periods where you went MIA and we couldn't account for you. But now that the brainwashing's been broken, all that lost time will come back.
As a part of Dragovich's own variant of the MKUltra program, Mason was brainwashed to turn against his own and kill the president. What if, because right now I can't see any other explanation why Samantha would ever want Richtofen dead, they were friends at one point. What if Samantha herself was also an experiment of MKUltra? What if her memory was wiped and she was brainwashed as someone's agent to kill Richtofen? That would then bring up another question, well, who is that other person that wants Richtofen dead? But it's a possibility, and you'll see why as I explain in just a second. But Samantha, before she worked for Requiem, was a BND agent. She was basically a secret agent for her country. She was a German spy, but there are gaps in her memory where she doesn't remember what happened. Similar to Richtofen as a child, she can't remember anything before the orphanage, anything before she entered this new universe. So her mother, her father, who would have been Dr. Maxis, her friends, who would have been Richtofen along with Nikolai, Takeo and Dempsey, any of that she forgot. But just like Richtofen, there's also 20 years of events that happened there between her growing up where she is unaccounted for. Could something have happened to her in that time where she was captured by America and experimented on as a part of Project MKUltra, or even used by her own country, Germany, as a part of their own variation of MKUltra, just like Mason was?
Dragovich. You should have been my finest agent. It would have all been so much simpler.
Dragovich!
It is simple. I'm gonna kill you. Try to fuck with my mind. You failed. You don't know anything. Tried to turn me against my own. Tried to make me kill my own president. Tried.
Come on, Mason!
0, 11, 24, 11, 1, 7, 19, 20, 10, 14, 2, 3, 19, 0, 8, 11, 22, 21, 5, 17.
And what kind of nails this down for me that it may have happened to her is about halfway through the Cold War Zombie storyline, after Samantha was banished to the Dark Ether, she was trapped in there for 2 days, but because time in the Dark Ether works differently, she was actually in there for about 3 months. The side effects of the Dark Ether started to wear on her. Some of those side effects are memory loss, but she also gained Dark Ether powers and ended up unleashing an undead army on Outpost 25, which is the map Firebase C. And so when Samantha was rescued from the Dark Ether 2 days after she was thrown in there by Dr. Peck, because of her causing the undead outbreak there, she was taken into custody by the director of Requiem, who was Richtofen. Unbeknownst to her, he was keeping his identity a secret, but Richtofen had Samantha captured and thrown into isolation, where she was to undergo some testing.
What's happening?
Garcia, Anderson. Secure her.
Hey! Take your hands off me! Weaver! Call them off!
You're to undergo some additional testing. Don't make this any harder than it already is.
Why are you doing this?
I'm not. Orders from the director. It's okay, girl. I'll look after you.
Weaver! Make this stop!
I can't, Sam. My hands are tied.
And to make sure that she was well behaved, every day she was given loads of drugs, and from what she says to us, because of the drugs Richtofen was pumping into her, she was struggling to keep a straight mind.
Hello, Sam.
Hello, Weaver.
I was hoping we could talk about yesterday.
What happened yesterday?
You don't remember?
It's hard to keep things straight in my mind. Especially with the cocktail of drugs you're giving me. Every day.
It's for your own good, Sam. We just want to help. Your outbursts are a cause for concern. You must understand that. The nurse was only trying to do his job.
Broken noses will heal. Besides, The medications don't help. They don't stop the dreams.
We don't know what these drugs were Richtofen administrated to Samantha, but he then started to interrogate her. And if you listen to certain parts of Richtofen's interrogation with Samantha and compare it to Hudson and Weaver's interrogation in the Black Ops 1 campaign with Mason, you will notice some suspicious similarities between the two.
Wake up. Wake up.
Where am I? Where's Natso?
Wake up. Wake up.
Where am I? Where's Reznov?
You will answer our questions. Do you understand?
Who the hell are you?
That's not important. What's important is who you are. What is your name?
Fuck you!
You will answer our questions. Do you understand?
Who the hell are you?
That's not important. What's important is who you are. What's your name?
Fuck you!
Where were you born?
Kiss my ass.
Where were you born?
Kiss my ass!
Your name is Samantha Maxis. You were born in Berlin, November 5th. Is that correct? Is that correct? Your name is Alex Mason. You were born in Fairbanks, Alaska. In 1961, you served in a CIA assassination team known as Operation 40. Is that correct?
I don't know. Everything is different now.
Oh, I know that better than you.
Where am I?
You're in Block 8. A facility specifically designed to take care of people like you.
Take care of people like me?
You're here to undergo some specialized tests.
What kind of tests?
You'll find out soon enough. The Dark Ether changed you in many ways. I just need you to know how much.
You don't know anything about me.
Really? I think you're going to be very surprised.
The two different interrogations between Richtofen and Samantha and Mason, Weaver and Hudson are very similar, and so using what we know about the Mason interrogation, about what the whole point of it was, which was to break his programming and use MKUltra's techniques to extract information out of him. Considering Richtofen is doing and saying very similar things to Samantha in his interrogation, including electroshocking her, just like Hudson and Weaver did to Mason, we can assume Samantha is Richtofen's MKUltra test subject. He is doing to her what was potentially done to him as a child by his father. Now, if that is the case, what could Richtofen be trying to get out of Samantha? The simple answer would be to break Samantha to kind of get revenge for her killing his wife and son, or to get her to confess. But as the storyline has progressed from this game into Black Ops 6, we now know the main reason, or at least that's what it seems, why Richtofen was doing all of this, was to get Samantha to realise her full potential. Richtofen wanted to see for himself all of the powers that Samantha had obtained from the Dark Ether, such as being able to shoot Ethereum crystals from her hands. She had purple glowing eyes, she could fly, she could open up rifts, levitate objects. Richtofen was torturing her to get her to realise her full power so that he could then use her to defeat the Forsaken, but also just going back to the Hudson interrogation, how Hudson eventually realised that he had been used by Dragovich to betray his own. He was basically acting as an agent for him. Well, similarly, could Richtofen be using those same techniques to extract information out of Samantha as to who programmed her to assassinate him, to order Weaver to kill him, which resulted in the death of his wife and son, to break her programming, the brainwashing that she had gone through previously. Again, that one is a little bit iffy for me because there is something Richtofen has done which I think contradicts this a little bit. I'll get onto that in just a second, but continuing on with him interrogating Samantha, Richtofen wanted to know the truth. As she was being interrogated, he instructed Weaver and Gray to check up on her to see what her status was, and in her progress report, Gray stated that she is concerned of Samantha's honesty relating to her experience within the Dark Ether. She said it remains unclear which which memories Samantha is repressing versus which she is withholding. And Richtofen could be MK altering her to figure that out, to extract those repressed memories. And coming to the Black Ops 6 campaign, which revolves around the Cradle, spoilers towards the end of the campaign as you're getting ready to interrogate Harrow. In order to do this, Adler uses an injection called phenozorazine, but MK Ultra coined it separation, which may just be based off the real-life psychological concept called separation of tasks by someone named Alfred Adler. It was a concept that helps people understand the differences between what they can and can't control. The concept of separation of tasks can be applied to many situations, including relationships, self-acceptance, external judgment, competition, and it can help people to take responsibility for your own actions or reactions, let go of bad experiences that are in the past, focus on doing their best, and celebrate the achievement of others. In BO6's campaign, Adler injects this into Harrow since she was acting as an agent for the Pantheon.
Its official name is phenozorazine, but MK Ultra coined it separation. I've had it for a while. Let's hope it doesn't have an expiration date. In most test subjects, it fragmented their psyche, a form of induced schizophrenia. We're gonna find the part of Harrow that's willing to talk to us. Don't ask.
We don't know what drugs Richtofen was giving Samantha whilst she was being interrogated. We don't know what he injected her with. We just know that he did. But the longer he continued to interrogate her, the closer he got to her understanding who she not truly was, but the powers she held. And something really interesting to me that happens in one of their interrogations is Richtofen, wanting to see her use her powers, gives Samantha an ultimatum. He says, look, you either kill this Omega soldier who is a bad guy, or if you don't, I'm gonna kill your friends.
62 days.
Sorry. I'm not sure what you mean.
That's how long I've been here. 62 days.
Is that including bathroom breaks?
Honestly, fuck you. Sorry. Saying that's just me taking my mandatory exercise.
What a potty mouth you have.
Apologies. What I meant to say was, fuck you!
Can I direct your attention to the monitor? The one on your right.
Elizabeth, she's asleep. Why are you watching her?
Not just Gray. I watch everyone. Bring in the prisoner.
What do you want from me this time? More magic teleporting?
No. Something much more important. This is a captured Omega agent, and I would like to see you kill him, using only the power of your mind.
I won't do it.
Won't or can't. I think the former.
You can't make me.
Take another look at the monitor. Do you see the figure standing very quietly in the corner of her room? The one who's just raised a pistol to Dr. Gray's head.
You're sick!
The way I see it, you have a clear choice. Kill the very, very bad person, or let the very, very good person die. It's simple, really. And please don't make me give you a countdown, because this time I would actually start on 5.
I can't.
Trust me, you can. 4.
I'm so sorry.
You may not realize it yet, but trust me, Samantha, today was a very good day.
And you can clearly hear Samantha hesitates to kill the bad guy. She doesn't want to do it. She doesn't want to kill this Omega soldier. However, previous to this, when she was trapped in the Dark Ether, she said this to us.
When I opened my eyes, there was blood on my hands. I stared at it, not knowing if it was mine. Then I saw the bodies. Omega soldiers. They looked like victims of a frenzied attack. An attack attacks had continued, even after they were dead. I have a knife. Do not remember where it came from. I just want to go home.
Before Richtofen forced her to kill the Omega Soldier in the interrogation, when Samantha was in the Dark Ether, she said when she opened her eyes, there was blood on her hands, and then she saw bodies of Omega Soldiers in front of her, and in her hand was a knife. So Samantha clearly killed these Omega Soldiers, but it sounds like she didn't know she did it, almost like she wasn't in control of herself, like she was an agent of someone. It feels like it's very possible Samantha has been a part of some kind of MK Ultra program, as she's almost not in control of herself sometimes. Right now, I can't think of a reason as to why she would want Richtofen dead. What could he have done to her that would lead it to that? There is no reason for us to believe Richtofen led an evil life, that he was a bad person before the fire, but if someone else wanted him dead, it could make sense. Her being a test subject of some kind of MK Ultra offshoot would be a reason if she was brainwashed into doing it.
Interrogation didn't work with you, but thanks to MK Ultra's research, we had a backup plan. If you believed you were someone else, we could lead you to a place where you'd give everything up.
I did say earlier there is something that contradicts this for me, and that is the fact that when Samantha was in Richtofen's possession, he did two things to her without her knowledge. He scanned her brain and he took samples of her DNA. With her DNA sample, he combined it with a DNA sample of Revanov and created a child using Grey as its surrogate mother. This child was called Ava. So that was the first thing Richtofen did after stealing her DNA, and the second thing he did was he took scans of her brain and then implemented it into AI called the Synaptic Algorithm Module.
This is a classified network. Identify yourself.
My name is Strauss. My associates and I need urgent assistance to escape this facility.
Strauss? Oscar Strauss? Are the others with you?
What is this? Some kind of a sick joke?
You are speaking with the Synaptic Algorithm Module. Call me Sam.
Explain yourself. Why do you sound like Agent Maxis?
Sheila's my source code. The true Samantha Maxis sacrificed herself to save your world.
So, what exactly did you mean when you said Maxis was your source code?
The director based my programming on scans of her brain. He hoped to replicate her remarkable abilities.
Richtofen created an AI version of Sam, which he then hoped he could manipulate. If Richtofen was using MK Ultra on Samantha, surely he would use it to do the exact same thing he was attempting with this AI version of her.
July 14, 1989. The time is 9:35 a.m. and I am going to attempt to synchronize the Synaptic Algorithm Module's lower and higher functions for the first time. Commencing low-level startup procedures.
Voice routines. Online. Memory interface. Online. Systems interface. Online. Loading memory lattice. Loading complete.
So far, so good. Let's align, synchronize, and then start her cortex simulation.
Loading cortex scans. Loading complete. Synchronizing fabric. Synchronization complete. Adding cortex daemon to process list. Rebooting.
How are you feeling, Sam?
Where am I?
Voice modulation will need to be modified. Recalibrate GPS. She shouldn't need to ask where she is. You are with friends. My name is Edward. You are my guest.
Good afternoon, Edward.
You just arrived. I'm looking forward to spending time together. Tell me, what do you remember before waking up?
I remember a knife. A promise I couldn't keep. A morning that would never come.
Do not worry. You are safe here.
Blood on my hands. But where are my hands? I don't understand.
Sam, those sound like nightmares. They are not real.
How? How do I know what's real and what isn't?
Because I will help you. Would you like that?
Yes, I would like that very much. Thank you, Eddie.
Listening to that radio, Richtofen calibrated the AI version of Sam so that she thought the two were friends, and because Sam essentially had Samantha's brain, she knew everything that she did. If this was how Richtofen was planning to extract this information from Sam, then why couldn't he have just used MKUltra to do that, and all of the methods of interrogation that were involved in that? He was manipulating this AI version of Sam, telling it memories that were real, weren't, essentially brainwashing it, you could say, but whatever he's planning to do with it or information he wants from it, why couldn't he have done all of that when the real Samantha Maxis was in his possession, when he was interrogating her? That's the one thing that doesn't quite add up. Yet, although all of this, everything I'm saying, seems to be a part of Richtofen's plan. Him interrogating her, eventually manipulating her to plunge herself into the Forsaken so she became trapped in the Dark Ether, taking scans of her brain, creating this AI version of Sam, creating a child using her DNA, sending Weaver, Carver, Gray and Strauss to Terminus Island, and then them escaping was also a part of his plan. Them travelling to Citadel des Morts, I think, is also a part of Richtofen's grand plan. Everything that is going on has been set into place by him. Not a single thing, including the death of his father, he had planned a long time ago. The one campaign I haven't touched on, of course, is Black Ops 6. We've talked about MKUltra in Cold War and Black Ops 1, but the BO6 campaign revolves around the Cradle and Case, who is the character you play as. And while we learn in the campaign that the main character, otherwise known as Case 1, was the first and last Cradle test subject. The Cradle was created by the Pantheon, which is a branch of the CIA, a very secretive one to the point where not even other Black Ops divisions knew it existed. They wanted to use the Cradle to try and mold people into perfect soldiers, to break down the walls of mind and body, but on Case, their first test subject, they failed. He became out of control, violent, and in his rage he sabotaged the facility, contaminating it with the same poison that ran through his veins.
No! Look what you've done! I know what you really are, Case. The Cradle made you this. You owe everything to the Pantheon.
Destroyer. The Cradle.
Again.
Finish this.
We have to get out of this.
After the incident at the facility where the Cradle was being made, the program was shut down and the Pantheon was dissolved. And Case was supposed to be rehabilitated, but he wasn't entirely. So the Cradle was kind of a hallucinogen that was intended to be used as a biological weapon, making people faster, stronger and more aggressive, causing them to no longer be in control of themselves. And the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because, again, with Samantha, even though I don't think this portion of the campaign is tied into zombies, even though zombies and the campaign are in the same universe, so the two do happen in the same timeline, as to whether the Cradle is directly involved in the zombie story, I don't think so, but seeing the similarities here of the Cradle grabbing control of you and you then having no control over yourself, could it have been that Samantha was infected by it and the voice in her head was telling her that she, or not her directly, but she needs to order a hit out on Richtofen to try and not trace it back to whoever originally wanted him dead. I think that one's a little bit more far-fetched, but it's always interesting to theorise. Or could it just be as simple as something happened between Samantha and Richtofen, between that 20-odd year gap that we don't know of, that caused Samantha to want him dead? Things went wrong, it resulted in the death of his family, and from that point on, Richtofen changed and he set out on a new mission. But I definitely think there's something there between Richtofen and Krafft when he was a child. You can tell from that first radio that Krafft not only wanted to work with the CIA on MKUltra because it was interesting to him, but he also saw it as a way to fix Eddie's nightmares. And he used MKUltra to replace his memories, but I'm guessing he did more damage to him than good, which in the end resulted in Krafft's death. You would think Krafft, being Richtofen's adoptive father, Richtofen would care and love for him, not want anything bad to happen to him, but in Citadel des Morts, Richtofen gets his father killed, and he doesn't care. So Richtofen obviously hates him. There has to be a reason for that. Is it because Krafft used him in his MKUltra experiments as a child? I'm going to leave that one there, so let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, drop a like rating, make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with latest content on the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.